Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
So I think this one qualifies even though I did technically work in the same building. You see what I mean? One summer between first and second year of university, I managed to get a job at a pathology lab through a friend who already worked there. Basically, if there was something that took no technical expertise to do, then it was my job. Taking and unpacking deliveries, moving bins, working in the storeroom, all part of my glamorous new job. It paid better than any other summer job I was likely to get though, so I was happy to have it. Bizarrely, I was still required to wear a lab coat. This was because of the materials I had to handle occasionally, and the fact I did have to walk in and out of the actual labs on a regular basis. One of my duties was to change the burn bin every morning. The burn bin contained stuff like the used microscope slides, cultures, anything else gross and disposable that came out of the lab. It was a huge, bright yellow commercial bin on wheels with a lock on it. I had to push it down the central corridor of the hospital, out of a side door, drop it off at a pickup point where it was taken away to be burnt, then drag an empty one all the way back. The main corridor I went down was like the spine of the hospital. Doors on either side would take you to various wards and departments. So one day I'm doing my bin dragging duty, just passing one of the wards when I hear someone say, "Excuse me, doctor." I keep moving because it didn't even occur to me they could mean me. But we're on this sub, so you know where this is going. Angry lady. Doctor, doctor. My jacket got grabbed from behind, so I stopped. Angry lady. Sorry, doctor, I'm sure you're busy, but I have a few questions about my mom, if that's all right. I stared at her dumbfounded for a second because I honestly had no idea how she could possibly mistake me for a doctor in this situation. Me. I'm sorry, miss, but I'm not a doctor. Angry lady. You're wearing a lab coat. Me. Yeah, I work in the path lab, so I have to wear it, but I'm not a doctor. She crossed her arms, looked at me, looked at the blue lanyard with a key card I'm wearing, and then suddenly looked really angry. Angry lady. Look at you. You have the coat and a lanyard. You're obviously a doctor. Just because you're busy, that doesn't mean you can just ignore patients. People like you are why the NHAs are in the state. It's in. I've never been blamed for the failings of a national institution before, so that was a novelty. I tried to reason with it. Me, miss, I'm clearly too young to be a doctor. I was 19. My lanyard says pathology lab on it, and I'm pushing a bin. I don't know how it could be any clearer that I'm not a doctor. If you'll excuse me, I need to carry on with my job. If you ice on the ward, I would think they'd be the better people to ask your questions. I then take off as fast as a man pushing a large box of disease has ever moved. I drop off, pick up an empty and head back towards the lab. When I hear that's him, angry lady is now talking to a nurse and gesticulating like crazy, pointing at me occasionally. The nurse looks incredibly confused. Angry lady, I found someone who's actually willing to do their job unlike some confused nurse. Miss, I thought you said you spoke to a doctor. This isn't a doctor. He's pushing a bin and he appears to be about 12. Thanks for that, nurse. I'll just head over to the burn unit now. I'd love to tell you how the rest of the conversation went, but I wasn't risking getting pulled back into that mess. I just kept going with my bin, and when I got back to the lab, reported what had happened to my manager in case any complaints came up. This happened in 2020. Some backstory. I am a banker, but due to this whole COVID-19 situation, I work at a different location than my usual branch. I live in New York, and banking is still considered an essential service. So what my bank did was temporarily close the majority of the branches in my area, and those that are remaining open are open in 2 shifts. Team A, Monday to Wednesday, Team B, my team, Thursday to Saturday. Also, we now close at 3 p.m. instead of 5 p.m., and the dress code suit tie is no longer enforced. Right now, I don't really do all my normal duties, so the majority of my day is just servicing clients, ordering new debit cards, helping set up online banking, etc. We're also instructed to do servicing through appointment only so people won't be sitting and waiting there. I also have to do traffic control. The teller line still gets pretty busy, and we can't have more than a couple of people inside the branch at any one time. So I ask them to wait outside online until it's their turn. Towards the end of the day, around 2:30, I step outside of the branch for a moment to take a few pulls of my vape, when a middle-aged woman walks past the line and enters the branch. I respectfully come up to her and tell her, "Miss, I apologize, but there's a line outside for those who are waiting to do a transaction." She just looks at me and walks away from me and sits herself down in my office. By my office, I mean my workstation, since I'm just at that branch temporarily and only on Thursday, Friday, and Saturdays. But I have been working from that office for almost a month at this point, so let's just call it my office. I walked in after her and asked her what she needed help with. She just looks at me and tells me to leave. I explain that I work here and this is my office, or at least I tried to. She just gets up, comes up to the teller, and tells her that I'm harassing her because I think that she skipped the line. Makes a big thing out of it. The teller had my back and did confirm that I did work there and that was my office. She was expecting to see the person who usually sits in that office, but he only works Monday to Wednesdays now. I asked her again what she needed help with. Normally I would explain the whole situation on how it's by appointment only now, but tension were already high and we are trained to de-escalate when we can. So I thought if it was something small, I can just quickly help her and not make things any worse. What happened next I will never forget for the rest of my life. She sat down in my office and told me that she needed a new debit card. Sounds simple enough, right? Wrong. I asked her for her ID since we cannot change it or order anything on behalf of the customer without verifying their identity. She said she left it at home and that I didn't need her ID since she is a regular customer. I apologized and said I can't do anything without ID. She then flipped out saying, "I don't know what I'm talking about, that she doesn't want to deal with me, etc." Bankers are allowed to help without ID only if they have had a consistent relationship with the customer for over a year, which the other guy probably did, so never asked for her ID. She then went on to scream on how I don't know who I am dealing with. She has a lot of money here. She can have. Me fired. She demands that I do what she tells me. I'm a bit frustrated at this point, but I'm still at work, so I still acted professionally as best I could. I didn't want to get into it with her, and I just told her I'm sorry, but my hands are tied. She walks out of my office, sits down on the chair outside, and starts waiting for another banker. I try to explain to her he's busy with another customer and it's appointment only, but she won't let me get a word out. I pull that coworker out of that meeting with his client and he reconfirms that she needs ID and couldn't wait there. She just stands up and walks out. Now, at the beginning of this story, I want to remind you that all happens after 2:30 p.m. and we close at 3 p.m. By the time she stormed out, it was closer to 2:50 p.m. set. After she stormed out and my coworker and tellers wrapped up, we spoke a bit about it and they told me she's always like that. Before we knew it, it was 3 p.m. and we began closing the branch, including rolling down the gate. At around 3:30 p.m. as the majority of my coworkers have finished their end-of-day procedures and have left. It was just me and a teller there finishing up. Next thing we know, Queen Karen is back, banging on the gate. She demands I open the gate. She got her ID and she needs a new debit card. I tell her, I'm sorry, but the security system is on. I can't turn on the computers and open the gate. I tell her we are closed. She screamed at me saying, "No, you idiot. You close at 5 p.m. It's only 3:30 p.m. I told her we changed the hours of all open branches a month ago, and there's a sign in the door of the lobby and on the walls around where she is standing that shows the new hours. I told her she can come in on Monday when the banker that knows her will be here and she can get done anything she needs." She then goes on to curse my life out and then picks up one of the small metallic garbage cans and starts throwing it at the gate, over and over while cursing and saying she's going to kill me and burn this whole place down. Guys, never do this in a bank. The security that even the smallest bank has is no joke. Next thing you know, the repeated throwing of the garbage can at the gate triggers our alarm, which puts the bank on lockdown and calls the police. The police arrive and our security team calls to advise us on the procedure. A security rep speaks to one of the cops and says that we have footage of this woman damaging bank property, trying to break in, treating arson, and threatening the life of a bank employee. This woman, as mean and as crazy as she was, got arrested and in tears was put in the back of the police car, which I kind of felt bad about, but there are just some things a person should know not to do. Now, this lady was definitely crazy, but this is Corona 2020 and everyone is a little on edge. I didn't want things to escalate this much, but it was out of my hands. I have no idea what happened to her after or what she was actually charged with. Since I read that New York is dismissing certain cases as not to put people in jail to risk getting the virus. I'm not sure if it's a felony doing what she did in a bank though, which is a federally regulated institution. What I do know is that we had to remain in the branch until our bank security team arrived. I had to meet with her over the phone and write an incident report, and it just goes on. I spent all day today with HR as well. I'm not in any trouble or anything since security footage backed up everything I said. But this lady was something else. She thought she was queen of the world. Screw bank property and rules and even the law. She needed a new debit card, and that was worth getting arrested for. I recently resigned from a toxic workplace as a data analyst at a startup. It was promising at the start, but not long after I noticed many red flags, including the fact that my manager had absolutely no data analysis or management experience prior to being promoted. How can you manage analysts without knowing basic Excel functions? I ignored those red flags and trusted her leadership because I liked the company's goals. Little did I know this would be the worst decision ever. I basically did all the work for the team for the whole year I was there. When I ran the numbers for reporting and analysis of team performance, she always asked me to dumb it down so she could present it to high-level management. I thought everything was going well because I only got good feedback from her and the rest of the team. About a month ago, a coworker who I don't get along with made a complaint about me, which was absolutely untrue. Manager believed it without investigating, and all of a sudden, I was placed on a PIP. She spouted all types of lies to HR, and when I refuted those claims with written evidence, they doubled down and started gaslighting me. You're just too negative. I refused to sign and was threatened with termination, so I complied and started building a case against them. I knew she was doing the PIP to terminate me as she looked for internal candidates to replace me, in secret because she was dumb enough to set the meeting up beside me. Once I signed my contract for a new job, I did basically say, screw all, and started working from home. Before my resignation, she asked me to do some reporting for her, so I ran the numbers and sent her the raw data, told her where the files were located and that she can analyze the data and make the presentation herself. Since she's the data analyst manager, she should know how to do it. She tried reporting me for that, but ultimately backfired because they asked her if the work that I did was actually wrong and was forced to admit she didn't know what she was looking at. Everything else in the team was questioned, and I believe they are now being audited by an external investigator. Credibility destroyed. I'm now working for a manager who is competent and has clear goals for the team. But that was a hell of a ride. Small win against toxic management. But a win is a win. Edit. PIP is a performance improvement plan. It is used by managers to address underperformance and start a documentation process, usually used as a first step to fire someone or phase them out. So last night, I'm finishing up my shift as an EMT, and it's been a long and tiring one. The calls weren't bad, but there were a lot of them, and we were all over the county. Shift is over. I change back into my comfy clothes, sweats, t-shirt, hoodie, and I head to the store to get something for dinner. I get there just in time since they're closing in 10 minutes. I assure the cashier that I was just grabbing something quick, and I go and pick up a lasagna from the frozen section. I grab them and turn to head to the checkout when I hear a not a throat clearing sound, but someone saying it like they were reading it out loud. Turn and look to see a woman, and she snaps off I need you to go in the back and get me a pack of the frozen pretzels. I say that I don't work here and point out where an employee just went behind an end cap. The woman snaps, you do work here and you need to stop being lazy and get me my pretzels. I again say, I don't work here, and turn to walk to the self. Check. She flips and storms off muttering about lazy employees and manager. I finish checking out and I'm grabbing my stuff and leaving when I see her again with her cart and a manager, and she yells, there she is. That's the lazy witch, and starts towards me. I'm not even going to engage, and so I hold up my receipt and my one item to the self-check girl and walk out. I hear the manager raising his voice and saying, lady. Turns out she left her cart behind and stormed out of the store to confront me. I get in my car to drive off, but she's standing in front of it, so I can't go anywhere. She's also giving me a tongue lashing that I'm too checked out to really pay attention to. Great. I'm already on my last nerve, and this woman is not helping. Manager sticks his head out of the door and hollers, ma'am. She turns and makes a hushing motion towards him. He hollers, ma'am. One more time and she hollers back saying, I'm dealing with your employee since you're too much of a little witch to do it yourself. He bristles and says, Madam. She cuts him off with shut up screeched at the top of her lungs. He shrugs and I watch him go back inside, fiddle with the locks, flip the sign to close, and pull down the shades. As I'm watching this, she gets annoyed that I'm not paying her my full attention and she yells, What are you looking at that's so important to ignore me? I just pointed at the shop and said, They just closed and locked the doors. I'm not sure what she screamed since it was pretty incoherent, but she did run towards the door. Seeing my chance, I drove off, leaving her pounding on the door and cursing and eventually not getting what she wanted.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.